We'll do a little intermission. I keep enjoying it. Hey.
Okay, we're ready. So I think we can start.
Hello, and welcome to the Cryosphere Pavilion Solar Cookers International presentation. I'm Caitlin Hughes, the Executive Director of Solar Cookers International.
And I'm Alan Bigelow, the Program and Science Director at Solar Cookers International.
And we have an exciting lineup of speakers sharing stories with you from around the world about solar cooking and how it applies to the cryosphere. So we'll give you an overview of what solar cookers are, who Solar Cookers International is, as well as these very interesting case studies from all around the world. So thank you so much to the Cryosphere Pavilion for hosting us. Thank you all so much for joining us, both those in person and online, whether you're watching it live or the recording of it. And we will have more questions at the end. So if you think of them, please do hang on to them, and we'd love to answer them at the end of the presentation. So we will also be hearing from two of our global advisors, Dr. and Mrs. Janak Palta McGilligan, who is a global advisor in India, as well as our global advisor, Deepak Gadia, also in India. We'll also be hearing from our global advisor, Sanu Kaji Shrestha from Nepal, as well as Urs Rickenbach, the GoSol Chief Executive Officer, Board Director, and co-founder, and Nama Raj Dakal from Nepal. So what is a solar cooker? A solar cooker is a device that collects light and absorbs heat to cook food and pasteurize water, making it safe to drink. There are hundreds of different types, but they all utilize these same basic concepts. It's a very appropriate technology using thermal energy. So there are reflective panel cookers, such as this one right here. This is a Cookit, which is an open source model. It was actually designed by Solar Cookers International by request of the United Nations. They wanted something that could be made easily and affordably anywhere around the world. You can actually go to our website. We have two, solarcookers.org and solarcooking.org. So you can make one yourself. You can make one from recycled materials, so helping the environment in many different ways. There are also box oven solar cookers, as well as parabolic reflector solar cookers. And I also want to highlight that solar cookers can be used with complementary technologies, such as retained heat baskets and water pasteurization indicators, or WAPIs for short. There are also Fresnel lens solar cookers, Fresnel mirrors, evacuated tube solar cookers, and institutional solar cookers, which you'll be hearing more about through our presentation. So who is Solar Cookers International? We are the nonprofit leading the solar cooking sector since 1987. And we are fortunate to have hundreds of collaborators in about 135 countries worldwide. And we work to improve human and environmental health, empower women, support economic well-being by promoting climate-friendly solar cooking technologies, especially for vulnerable populations. So we are working to address the challenge affecting about 2.4 billion people. So that's about a third of the world cooking over open fires. And we're working to empower people with access to solar cooking. We're doing this through three main ways: advocacy, research, and building capacity. So we'll share more about that, but this is a perfect example of these advocacy and building capacity initiatives. So before we get into our guest speakers, I imagine some of you are wondering, solar cooking? Isn't that just in hot areas? What does that have to do with the cryosphere? So I'd like people to understand that for solar cooking to be successful, all you need is the sun. Doesn't matter how cold it is outside, but if you can see your shadow, it's a good day to solar cook. Alan, would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you, Caitlin. I'd just like to add a little bit more about the context of why we're here at this pavilion. And from solar cooking, you're essentially removing emissions that you might normally have from cooking fire. And if someone's cooking over charcoal, firewood, there's a lot of black carbon that's emitted in addition to other gases, greenhouse gases. And this black carbon precipitates down onto ice pack, glaciers, snow, and it can actually accelerate the melting of ice. So, in areas where the trapped water, like in the Himalaya mountains, this is a precious water source that's stored there. And the black carbon that is landing on top of this area is accelerating the melting. Interestingly, it's accelerating the melting in the same way that we use uh, material in solar cooking, like black cookware, because the black is more absorbent to the sunlight and transforms the energy of light to heat. So we're going to use that same approach to benefit the solar cooking. Another aspect that we find at high altitudes and at cold areas in the northern latitudes, and I live in New York, and I solar cook regularly, even through the wintertime when it might be a frostbite warning day outside. It's so cold that you don't want to be out there, but I can put the solar cooker out there and cook very effectively. And part of the reason why is that when it's very cold, there's less moisture in the air. So with less moisture, you have less scattering of the sunlight. More sunlight comes straight through to the solar cooker, and you can cook effectively there. So it's really the amount of sun that is more important than, say, the background temperature. So those two things, that you have less moisture in the air and the reduction of black carbon emission fires, is our direct connection with the cryosphere. Thanks for listening to that aspect, and thank you for letting me explain it. Thanks, Caitlin.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. And now we'll hear from Dr. and Mrs. Janak Palta McGilligan, who will share some of her experience with solar cooking from India.
Good morning, friends. Sunny greeting from sunny India. It's my honor and pleasure to share. Good morning.
I'm Janak Palta McGilligan from Central India. I'm very grateful to Solar Cookers International to invite me in COP27 UN Climate Change Conference to speak about my experiences in solar cooking pathway to emission prevention and climate crisis mitigation. This is a hands-on experience of about 4 decades in Central India working with more than 500 rural communities. Myself and my husband, James McGilligan, both of us were of the view that cooking in smoky kitchens is violence against women. And we were very committed. Since I went to Earth Summit in 1992, when I saw the status of environment all over the world, and I got committed to Agenda 21 of Earth Summit, affecting the women all over the world and the environment. I came back in 92, and today in 22, I am able to share with you that solar cooking, especially solar thermal cooking, is a proven fact of empowering women and mitigating carbon, mitigating emissions, and solution of climate crisis. It's all about learning and training rural and tribal women. I share this experience of first 26 years in Burli Development Institute for Rural Women based in Indore, where I worked with 6,000 tribal girls days in a year. That was the first experience after learning that solar box cooker were not successful in India for two reasons. One was technology was given free of cost to people, and nobody knew how to use it. There was no users training. So we learned from that, and this was not according to their culture, belief, cooking food. So we started working with first solar kitchen. When the tribal women staying with us for 6 months accepted that, and they thought they should have these cookers in their homes, and they were trained. So our training focused on how to use the cooker, how to do the solar cooking, and how to maintain, clean, and keep it nicely. And we found wonderful results of those women who used. By now 1,000 solar cookers have been in use by rural and tribal communities, not only by women, even men have opened solar tea stall. And out of this whole journey, we learned that it was a big success because this solar cookers feedback from women proved that it it is successful in accomplishing millennium development goals and sustainable development goals. I talked about that in millennium development goals in UN in 2002, and this time I spoke in United Nations Sustainable Development Goals program in 2017. And the women gave the feedback that brought a conclusion, proved that it gives equal access to women to technology, power, and this helped children and women to work on getting best nutrition because they could cook their food in an emission free area. There no more cooking in smoky kitchens. That saved their household pollution. They saved the children. These women, we thought when we trained them in solar cooking, we thought we were training them to solar cook and save their health, eyes, lungs, and environment because it was emission free. But to our surprise, these women were able to reduce the waterborne disease because no more the tribal girls had to go, the children had not to go to the forest to bring wood and not go to school. So this gave a huge empowerment to children. The girls could go get education properly, equally, and also they had income generation. They started making things, cooking, and selling that in their weekly market, but without any smoke. No more they were cooking with smoke now. So they got to make their income. That raised their social status. They gave them more confidence. They could cook food from all their indigenous farm products, which was very good for their health. And they were respected more in the community because this is first time in the tribal area the girls who had never gone to school, they are going back with the solar cooker, which is very smart and which is absolutely pollution free. And they could I must say that we could do it because we had a complete network. We worked with NGOs, we worked with government, and many people supporting solar cookers in their funding was Plage, was Gadia Solar. And once we started giving domestic cookers to the women, transfer of technology was done. And then we also started manufacturing training, and solar women could do manufacturing, maintaining in their villages. And the program was developed very systematically to spread more awareness. Then my husband and more people, they they made many solar kitchens, large solar kitchens in many areas. So we could see that all those women all those more than 1,000 solar cookers women took in the villages, they were able to have huge social, economic, and environmental positive impact. And it saved, they said, it saved their dignity because they were subject to uh, rape and sexual abuse when they had to go long walking, and they also saved their life and the children from miscarriage because they were carrying heavy load. So lot of social, economic, environmental positive impact. But other than that, we made many solar kitchens in the area for hostels in the tribal area, which also became centers of empowering youth to learn practically about solar cooking. And to the extent I have been a mentor to many youths for startup who are working in engineering. And recently in July, August, there was largest pilgrimage yatra in India called Amarnath Yatra, where were 8 million people. These students of Daystar Cooking Solutions and Swaha, they made land zero waste, zero landfill, and all the yatris, all the pilgrimage people, they had installed huge solar dishes, chefler dishes, to provide tea and hot water and facilities to the yatra. And this is taken up by the government, and I am very, very proud that I have been a part of it. And I'm sure that sustainable development goals are going to be achieved, and I hope all the governments and all the NGOs at entire world network, and we all work together to spread this movement far more greater and largest level. Thank you so much for having me. All the best.
We love Janak McGilligan. She's such an inspiration. When I first met her, she was solar cooking at that very moment. I just wanted to add a little bit of context to what she just said. She referred to the Amarnath Yatra, and this is a pilgrimage that takes place in the Himalaya mountains in Kashmir. And so that number of people that are going just during a short window in the summertime, about a month or two, it really is a large impact on the land, and people have to eat. So there's so many people there, and most of the food is cooked typically with combustible fuels that add black carbon that then precipitates down onto the glaciers and helps melt them faster. And we don't want that. So her team, well, inspired by Janak, went there with a very large system. Actually, they have several installations. And this year was the first time that happened. So we were very excited to see that happening at high altitude. And thanks to Janak. Now, our next speaker I want to introduce is also on a recorded message, and this is Deepak Gadia. And he is really the expert, the world's expert in large-scale solar cooking systems. So I'll let him tell his story, but we are just thrilled that he's one of Solar Cookers International's global advisors. So we talked to him quite a bit. Here he is, Deepak Gadia.
Good morning, friends. Sunny greeting from sunny India. It's my honor and pleasure to share our experience of how we have been able to bring and use solar cooking technology for the topic of today, a pathway to emission and prevention and climate crisis mitigation at the side event in Egypt. And we are thankful to International Cryosphere Climate Initiative and Solar Cooker International for giving us the opportunity. Friends, our journey in solar cooking started when we returned to India from Germany, and where we learned that the solar cooker technology which was being promoted, though functional, was not spreading. So we looked critically at it to find out what was stopping it from spread, where actually one could cook with solar cooker, box cooker. And what we realized was that it was not acceptable or not spreading because it was not doing what people wanted. It was slow and it could not fry and could not make all the items which people wanted. So with help of Dr. Dieter Seifert of Germany, who was a dear friend, we brought the technology of SK14 parabolic concentrator to India, with which we could now concentrate the sunlight at one point, have a high temperature, and because of that, now we could cook very quickly. One can cook in about half an hour, and one could also fry and also make bread out of it, the chapati, the traditional chapati. It was very successful, but very quickly we realized that the dichotomy was that people who could afford it did not need it, and people who needed it could not afford it. So we realized that now we have to do something about it, and we realized that maybe community cooking may be the way out. So we, with the help of Dr. Dieter Seifert, met Mr. Wolfgang Scheffler, a physicist, an Austrian living in Germany, and he had developed a technology called Scheffler concentrator, where with a parabolic dish of about 7.4 square meter now 60 square meter, one could reflect the light in the kitchen and cook in the comfort of the kitchen. And this technology was ideal for cooking in the comfort of the kitchen, especially when you want to do community cooking. And we started offering this solar cooking system to midday meal programs, and that was very successful. And one fine day, we received an inquiry from an NGO called Brahma Kumari that they wanted a solar cooking for 1,200 people. And that forced us to develop the technology from solar direct cooking to solar steam cooking system, where we now put the system in the terrace. The Scheffler concentrator placed on the terrace. They reflect the light onto a water tank where the water gets converted to steam, and then the steam is piped to the kitchen, and now one can cook with solar steam. So this is how we transited from domestic cooking to community cooking, and community cooking to institutional cooking. And we are very happy to share that India is one of the largest solar steam cooking systems in the world, both in number and in size. The first system we did for Brahma Kumari in cooperation with their engineer and with Mr. Wolfgang Scheffler cooked 1,200 meals. And then we supplied a system to Tirupati temple where we cooked 30,000 meals with 106 Scheffler dishes of 10 square meter. And now the world's largest steam cooking system is at Shirdi temple in Maharashtra, where we are cooking 50,000 meals with 73 Scheffler dishes of 16 square meter each. The work does not stop here. Now we have tied up with a company in Australia called Sunrise CSP India Private Limited, and now we are offering the world's largest cooking system, which will be installed at Tirupati temple again, and with 2 dishes of 500 square meter, we will be cooking 80,000 meals per day. So friends, what we wanted to show was that where there is a will, there is a way. We could develop a solution where we could now offer cooking system for thousands of people. But the challenge was, how do we make it reach the last mile? For large institutions like temples, hospitals, schools, it is possible for them to buy. But how do we bring it to the last mile, to the poor who need it but could not afford it? So what we learned was that just technology is not sufficient. We'll also have to create business models. So a few years back, we tried out a model of microfinance, where we thought that if a rich man or a company can buy something in installment on loan, why can't a poor man get a solar cooker in installment? So, and we learned this microfinance from Muhammad Yunus, who received the Nobel Prize for his Grameen Bank, and we tried it out. But we realized that in India, the poor were not willing to buy the solar cooker in installment, because their thinking was, why should we pay for something what we get free? When we tried to tell them that wood is maybe free for them, but it is creating climate havoc, they said, look, we come first. For us, it's about survival. And when you think like them, I think we all will agree that for them, their survival is perhaps more important to them than the climate. So we said that we'll have to change the model. And we came out with a model where we say you pay from your profit, not from your pocket. We introduced the solar cooker as income generation, where now they buy, they get a solar cooker on installment, but with the difference that they pay from their profit and not from their pocket. And what we did was we taught them how to make items which they could sell using solar cooker or solar concentrators, and now they are able to make this. So this was the first smoke-free village in the world, which was installed near Tirupati temple. Then the technology multiplied. So basically what we want to say is that where there is a will, there is a way. One can develop technology. One can also come to solar solution. What is needed is a global initiative, people of coming together to come on the same page to make sure that this technology which has been developed, which is benefiting only the rich, should also reach the last mile. And that's why I think it's very important that at COP meet, where all the government heads are meeting, they don't only talk of technology transfer and transferring money, but I think what you require is promotion, skill development, manufacturing, business models, all coming together. And this South-South dialogue, which is also very important, because we can also learn a lot from South-South. And the North, which has been the cause of deterioration, climate deterioration, agrees to fund such projects. So we are thankful that this session is taking place. I would have loved to come personally and meet you, learn from you, work with you. But unfortunately, because of the short notice, it was not possible. But I'm sure that with this possibility of giving my talk presentation through virtual world, we will connect and come together. So basically, there are a lot of questions which people ask me. If the technology is, why it is not spreading? So as I rightly said, first is that many people are perhaps not aware of it. So awareness is very important. And Solar Cooker International is doing a great work on that front. Then the second question is it possible? Where is it available? So I think government should support manufacturers of solar cookers locally. Unfortunately, India which had a very, very big program for offering solar cooking system, has now removed subsidy on small systems, and now it is providing subsidy on solar photovoltaic. And photovoltaic is, of course, a great technology which can produce power. But what about cooking? And as you can understand, for a poor people, the cooking is its first need and power comes second. So I think solar cookers should not be neglected, need to be supported. Third is, how do we develop capacity building so that this technology could be manufactured locally instead of being sent from far away? For example, now we have made it a do-it-yourself kit where we supply the cookers to villages, and with help of Janak Palta at Milligan, we have developed programs where they train the woman to use solar cooker, install a solar cooker. And this program which we did with them, with the help of funding from Austrian students, has shown that yes, the cookers which were supplied 10 years before are still working. Another question which is being asked is that will it work in winter, or does it only work in summer? Actually, it's a misconception. A solar system works on radiation, irradiation, and actually in winter, a solar cooker works better than in summer. We have installed the world's largest or highest solar steam cooking system for the Indian Army in Ladakh, where the ambient temperature outside are as low as -20, -30 degrees centigrade. So it has nothing to do with heat or cold. It has to do with radiation. And luckily, all developing countries are blessed with sun. We have about between 250 to 300 sunny days in our country. So I think that's a misconception. So it's important that we also network, work together, and not against each other. And this is the need for the day. Climate change is now a global issue, not a local issue. And that's why we require global effort. So as they always say, think globally, but act locally. And solar cooker is a perfect example of starting and offering that. Thank you very much. All the best. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you, Deepak Gadia. We appreciate all of your work, all of your inspiration, and thank you for your message just now. I really appreciate that you concluded with the example for the Indian Army at Leh Ladakh, because that really is a testament how solar cookers can work at high altitude and in very cold areas. Absolutely right. So thank you for all your contributions. And I'd like to now turn to another group that's doing some work in northern areas and at high altitude. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, Urs Riggenbach, who is the GoSol Chief Executive Officer, Board Director, and Co-founder. The last time we spoke with him, he was in Switzerland at a very high altitude with an innovation with his solar thermal system. And he's going to join us today virtually. So Urs, I will let you take it from here. Thank you for being with us today virtually. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Solar Cooker International, for this opportunity to speak on a bit about our work. And so far, it's been very good to hear also from other actors in the field, because it's really an opportunity for us to come together and push. And as we know that the political push at conferences like the COPs, can make a big difference, because we know that technology is, one field where innovation is happening, but then it is politics and the economy that in the end will, make or break a technology, as we have seen with many other technologies, like in mobility or especially also in energy, where we had many forks in the history that we've unfortunately chosen to go with fossil-based systems rather than solar ones, which have been around for a long time. But we have all the more reasons to catch up and push solar thermal use as much as possible. And as Alan has mentioned, there is multiple issues with climate change, but also specifically burning firewood and burning trees, leading to black particle emissions that settle on the ice and speed up the melting of well, I don't know if we can still talk about polar ice caps. I mean, there is not much left now. But maybe on a more positive note, we have been developing solar thermal technology here at Solar Fire. We're based in Finland, up in the north, and as Alan has said, no matter if you're in Switzerland or Finland or even in the northern countries, when you have sun, you get an extremely good clear atmosphere usually, and that allows you to even run solar thermal systems up far in the north. But at the same time, a big potential is in the south, in the sunny countries, where deforestation and all sorts of fuel pressures and economic pressures are really putting a lot of pressure on people to go after their local forests for fuel. And so we have been looking at entrepreneurship primarily as a way to help people switch from burning biomass, burning trees and firewood, to start using directly the solar energy to run their daily activities. And so in the case of Kenya, for example, where we've done a lot of work, we can show that not only can people cook meals, do lunches, but they can also run a bakery. They can run food processing, like roasting peanuts and other seeds and beans. And whenever we can get an entrepreneurship around the solar technology, then it can make a really, really big impact, because not only does it replace a lot of firewood and charcoal in those contexts, but also we're able to generate a lot of income for people who have really good reasons to increase their income. Maybe just for your interest, I will be able to share a few pictures on the presentation. Let's see. There we go. So what we have done is looking at the same concepts of solar cooking, but looking at what scale can be useful for entrepreneurs to run their solar activities. And this is when we came up with the Lightfire 5, which has several applications, and one of them being a baking oven, where you can run baking activities just like you would on a regular commercial oven. And when we bring the technology through various projects, but also through entrepreneurs who directly purchase from us or from our licensees, we're able to impact a lot of different SDGs at the same time and help people get ahead in life. One of the key things we also do is train people, and we've heard this before in other presentations. It's really important with people who don't have previous entrepreneurship experience to help instill skills in them and train them to run their own businesses and then create income for themselves with the tech. The other thing we train them on is maintenance, and that's another key benefit of our tech, that for maintaining it, we're able to use locally available resources. There is zero imports for us to maintain our light fires indefinitely. So that's a very good point, where it's really just the knowledge that we need to transmit. And lastly, we bring bakers, local bakers, to train them on baking exactly the way they usually bake. So local recipes and local culture when it comes to baking and products. And yes, another good topic we've heard is working together, and this is also where we have reached now with the technology working to empower people in very different contexts. And so we have started a licensing framework where we're able to work with local partners in different countries where they are able to go after their own opportunities. And this has been very successful in various countries. Right now we're in Kenya, Uganda, soon in Tanzania, also already in Ethiopia, and also we've started in Europe, in France, where there is also now 11 solar entrepreneurs running their own bakeries and roasting businesses on our tech. So with this, we hope to inspire a lot more collaborations with local producers and businesses and entrepreneurs to really push technology to its limits and try to make as big of an impact as possible. And yes, so the opportunities are really wide, the applications are extremely broad. And so I think we really need to create a good ecosystem of partners working together. And in this respect, also thank you for Solar Cooker International to allow me to present a bit on the work and the great work you're doing to bring everybody together around this really important issue. With that, I pass it back to you, Alan, and I'm happy to also answer questions.
Thank you so much, Urs. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. I think one of the really important roles that Solar Cookers International plays is literally bringing these voices from all around the world to opportunities like this. So we're thankful to be able to represent the solar cooking sector here at COP27, find opportunities like the Cryosphere Pavilion, and then share them with our sector. So we appreciate this opportunity and thank you for joining us. I think, well, if there's any questions, but yes, Alan. I think you need to step up to the microphone if you have a question.
Urs, hi, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
It's great to see you again. I was wondering if you wanted to just add a comment about what you were doing in Switzerland when we last spoke with you.
Yes.
And these are other applications for thermal and for heat. So I think that it would help to just elaborate on that a little bit, because it might help people think a little bit beyond cooking and roasting and some of those two other applications. Would you
Yes,
like to
totally,
add a little
totally.
bit? Please do.
Yes, beyond cooking, we really, and I think we all know here, once we concentrate the sunlight, we get a lot of heat. And so basically any process that's possible with fire can be done with solar energy directly. And that's also why we call the product light fire, because essentially we're just using light to create the same effect as fire. And so we entered a partnership with a hotel resort in Switzerland to adapt and take this energy and power a sauna with it. So we've done already in Switzerland the first prototypes. And as we're speaking right now, we're moving into the next prototype that will be a fully automated solar sauna that will be also storing the energy of the sauna thermally. For in the day it will be charging essentially, and at night people will be able to use the sauna for wellness. And we wanted to really just show that no matter where you are, you can use solar thermal energy. And in this case, we are 2,000 meters altitude up in the snowy mountains. 2 to 4 meters of snow, and it is always really impressive to see the tech in action in these harsh circumstances.
Thank you, Urs. And I also really appreciate that your designs use local materials. And I know that your team is expert at doing that, going into a new country, a new community, and building the systems. And you've proven that you can do that over and over again. So thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Urs? We have one more here. Okay. I can't. Maybe if you can come here to ask your question. Thank you.
Okay. So I was wondering if you have similar existing projects in Nepal or any future plans to work in Nepal, because we still heavily rely on polluting fuels and we have a huge potential for solar power. So I was just wondering. Thank you.
Totally, yes. I have myself spent a few months in Nepal back in 2012, and so I had previous plans to work in Nepal because I saw that same potential. So we'd be happy to have a chat about that, because yes, we can definitely run the tech in Nepal and go a long way to get people off biomass fuels and other polluting fuels. Thank you.
Okay, one more question, Dr. Peg Barrett. Thanks, Urs, for staying on the line. Here's another question.
Right.
The question is, what are you using that's local material that is reflective enough to produce this heat?
Great, yes. And then we come to the definition of local material. So we're using normal glass mirror. So that makes it different from other solar technologies where we have to import, or we would have to import, special laminated mirror surface from Germany or other countries. Whereas we're able to use regular mirror that's available in any local glass store. So larger, like large towns and cities, you can get replacement parts for our system without needing to, bring in a whole supply chain from the outside.
Thank you, Urs. Let's give a round of applause. You can hear us.
Great, thank you all.
Okay, take care, Urs. Thanks for joining us, and we'll carry on. So you feel free to continue watching. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our next speaker, and we're going to go to Nepal. So the questions about Nepal were asked just a moment ago. The question, and our next speaker is. This will be a recorded message. Oops. And we have another global advisor named Sanu Kajishrestha. He is based just outside of Tamil in Kathmandu. And he and his team at Foundation for Sustainable Technologies, FOST, have been promoting solar thermal systems for cooking for many years. And they have been working with their communities. And I will let him now give an explanation about what he does. So thank you. And here's Sanu Kajishrestha.
From Nepal. After retirement from the World Bank in 2001, I founded a non-profit organization, Foundation for Sustainable Technologies, with the interested friends. I'm Sanu Kaji from Nepal. After retirement from the World Bank in 2001, I founded a non-profit organization, Foundation for Sustainable Technologies, with the interested friends in 2002, with a focus on research, development, demonstration, and dissemination of renewable alternative energy sources for empowering housewives in rural and urban areas in Nepal. As a solar cooker user since 1995 and as a global advisor of Solar Cookers International since 2016, I dedicate most of my time in promoting solar and sustainable activities matched with the Nepali culture, food habits, traditional practices, etc. All our activities are often reflected in social media, Facebook, and our website, postnepal.org, for more information. I'm Sanu Kaji from Nepal. After retirement from the World Bank in 2001, I founded a non-profit organization, Foundation for Sustainable Technologies, with the interested friends in 2002, with a focus on research, development, demonstration, and dissemination of renewable.
Just one moment where we will try to bring Sanukaji Shrestha back. So I might add that I've worked directly with him on several initiatives, and it's been a thrill to see how he works. Sanukaji Shrestha and his team are experts at doing public demonstrations, and I've joined him at several of these in the Kathmandu area, and he can demonstrate for several hundred students at one time. They can do it. They're experts at public demonstrations, and so not only are they showing solar cooking for food, they also have solar drying systems, which are ways to add value to crops and produce by drying the food using simple solar thermal systems, very similar to solar cookers. You expel the water, the moisture content from crops, and then it gives a longer life and adds value to the produce. He also is an expert at identifying communities that are near the Kathmandu area and in the valley who are most vulnerable and can best benefit from solar cookers. On one opportunity, he gave me a visit. I visited with him a group of women that are widows, and they are using solar cookers to improve their lives. And several of these widows run restaurants. The Balcha Nawari restaurant in Machagaon, for example, we visited and witnessed how they're using solar thermal systems to cook food for their customers, and every time they use the solar cooker, they're reducing their usage of LPG gas, and they save a significant amount of money by doing that, so it's worthwhile for them. Meanwhile, this is helpful for their environment because there are mountains that surround them. Okay, maybe we have Sanukaji Shrestha back with us. If we can go back one page, please. We'll try again.
I'm Sanukaji from Nepal. After retirement from the World Bank in 2001, I founded a non-profit organization, Foundation for Sustainable Technologies, with the interested friends in 2002, with a focus on research, development, demonstration, and dissemination of renewable alternative energy sources for empowering housewives in rural and urban areas in Nepal. As a solar cooker user since 1995 and as a global advisor of Solar Cookers International since 2016, I dedicate most of my time in promoting solar and sustainable activities matched with the Nepali culture, food habits, traditional practices, etc. All our activities are often reflected in social media, Facebook, and our website, postnepal.org, for more information on our efforts so far since 2002. During corona pandemic situation, we had lockdown time to time last year and this year. People don't have job, but we motivate and encourage the community to create job at home with solar cooker and solar related devices such as solar dryer, utensil boxes for drying seasonal food items for off-season and reduce fuel cost. We teach and train them how we make ourselves busy with economic return. We never feel that the lockdown has affected us from cooking in solar and continuing our day-to-day job. We are busy most of the time in research, testing, cooking, and demonstrating to the visitors and posting our latest achievement in Facebook. Solar Cookers International has been one of the main supporting partners in our solar and sustainable initiatives since 2014 till today. We would like to express our heartfelt thanks to all the ACI donors for supporting us in promoting solar cooking activities in Nepal. We hope Your valuable support will be continued in the days to come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sanu Kajisheshta, for your innovation and your persistence to promote solar cooking in your area in Nepal. It's really a beautiful sight to see how you're also building your own designs, and you're just so creative, and we just love that about you. So thank you for all of your efforts. On our next slide, well, we have another guest who will be joining us now virtually, Nawa Rajdakal, who is from Nepal. He works for the government, and I'll just let him explain from now, but he is in an influential position, so we're glad to have him here. Thank you. Nawa, please welcome Nawa Rajdakal.
Thank you, Alan. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this presentation. And I'm sorry I could not be there in person, but I'm happy to join virtually. Basically, as you have already presented, solar cooking has been in a way or other introduced in Nepal, and since I work with Alternative Energy Promotion Center, the government of Nepal's focal agency um, mandated on promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency. I will basically talk about a few policy matters that we currently have, and then how we have partnered with other partners to promote solar cooking. Basically, for the promotion of all kinds of renewable energy technologies in Nepal, government of Nepal has formulated renewable energy subsidy policy, and under that policy, there is also a provision to provide subsidies for solar cookers. Basically, there are two categories of solar cookers under that policy: domestic type and institutional type. So, for the domestic type, and then for the providing subsidy, the country is divided into three geographic regions: very remote, remote, and accessible. So for the domestic solar cookers, for very remote areas, up to 60% of the total cost and not exceeding Nepali rupees 15,000 is the subsidy provision. Whereas for category, the remote category, which we call category B, 50% of the total cost not exceeding 12,000 Nepali rupees. Similarly, for the accessible or the category C, 40% of the total cost not exceeding Nepali rupees 10,000 is the subsidy amount. For your information, one US dollar is as of today around 128 Nepali rupees. And similarly, for institutional solar cookers, for category A or the very remote, 75% of the total cost, not exceeding Nepali rupees 1 million, is the subsidy. And for category B or the remote category, 60% of the total cost, not exceeding Nepali rupees 0.5 million. And for category C or accessible region, 50% of the total cost are not exceeding 0.4 million Nepali rupees with the subsidy provision. Basically, to get that subsidy, we have a list of pre-qualified solar thermal companies who either manufacture or import the solar cookers, and the prospective user need to contact those companies, and they can buy the cookers from the companies. And while purchasing the cookers, the company will calculate the subsidy amount and deduct from the total cost and charge the users total cost minus subsidy only. And the subsidy amount the company will claim with us on behalf of the users, together with the documentation that proves that the user has received the cook stove, like field subsidy application form, the user's citizenship copy, and the photo of the user with the cooker and that, like that. And based on the receipt documentation, we do the assessment and we provide subsidy. And then we do periodic monitoring directly through us or through local governments or independent consultants. And for the quality control purpose, we do have realized that the standardization and testing are the key things that we need to work on further. Although there is a provision for subsidy, but currently the uptake rate is not very high. If we combine the number of solar cookers promoted so far with our involvement, more than 500 solar cookers have been promoted. And most of the other partners who are involved there are like Solar Cooker International, Bajra Foundation, Foundation for Sustainable Technologies, and Center for Rural Technology are the key partners, and the private companies who either import or produce and supply. Basically, the two types of solar cookers are promoted, the parabolic type or the concentrating type and the box type. Parabolic type is mostly imported. It's mostly from Germany or the Netherlands or some other countries. But looking at the current situation of the country, the traditional biomass is still contributing more than 65% of the total energy consumed in the country. And the LPG use is also on rise currently. To sort of provide the clean cooking solutions to the households who are either depending on traditional biomass or LPG use, the solar cooker can be one of the options. Of course, we need to see the appropriate users. The solar cookers promoted so far are mainly in the tourist routes and the refugee camps. Few were also promoted in some academic institutions like schools or the university canteens. So, if we can identify the right customers and do the right awareness and bring the technology in a good standardized condition, there is a possibility to promote solar cooking in Nepal. And to link with the subject that is in discussion today, the second nationally determined contribution that was submitted by Nepal to UNFCCC in 2020 has identified clean cooking as one of the priority subsectors under the energy sector. So, by promoting solar cooking, we can definitely contribute towards achieving that goal. So I stop here with my very brief presentation, and if there are any queries, I'll be happy to come back later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nawa. I appreciate that you joined us. And thank you for the overview of the solar cooking opportunities in Nepal right now, for letting us know about the subsidies and which types of cookers are being promoted, who's involved, and the opportunities ahead. So we may save questions for later and keep going for the interest of time. But Nawa, if you can just stay with us for the next half hour or so, we would appreciate it very much. Okay.
Sure, sure. I'll stay joined for half an hour.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much. And thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate that you were able to do that. Thanks to the modern technology. Nawa mentioned that one of the areas that solar cookers are being promoted in Nepal is along tourist routes. And I had an experience in 2013, and I just wanted to share that with you because I think it fits in with what he just said. And that was that I went on a unique first solar trek in Nepal. And this was at high altitude where 24 trekkers for 9 days trekked at high altitude, and all of the food that we ate was prepared using portable solar cookers. So I just wanted to give you a quick view of what that looked like. So here is the team that was on the trek. And here's a picture of some of the solar cookers. These look fairly large. I would say that the first one here that you see, the largest one, it would be considered a community cooker. And the other two would be considered household level cookers. And these cookers are designed from Prince, which is based in India. And these cookers were brought to Nepal for this particular opportunity. And you see our solar chef standing in front, who was an expert chef along the way. And this was an extremely successful trek, I would say, because of the planning. The leadership looked for the best window of the weather. And this happened in November of 2013. We had clear skies, but we also had food that we enjoyed on into the evening. And one of the ways that you can keep the food hot, if it's cooked with the sun during the day, is to use heat retention baskets. And that's what you see in this photo, is that these gentlemen are placing the solar cooked meals inside these insulating baskets to retain the heat and keep that food warm on into the night. So we did enjoy hot meals at nighttime that were cooked with the sun. So that's an excellent example of a complementary technology. This is the route of the trek. We went up to Bareb Kunda, which is a sacred lake. And that was the destination. It's at 4,000 meters high, so about the 14,000 feet high, about the height of the Colorado Rocky Mountains, if just to compare into the U.S. altitudes. But we stopped along the way at several sites that were very interesting and enjoyed solar meals that were a combination of Western food, Eastern food, local foods, but also foods that it really showcased the flexibility of solar cookers and how they can cook all types of foods. So along the way, we also stopped at some cultural centers. This is a nunnery, nuns that had left Tibet and installed their practice in Nepal. So we were able to visit them and also share some prayers. And this is a picture of the destination, Bhairab Kunda. And from there, we had some solar cooked meals and then turned around and headed back down the mountain. And here, this is Fort Duguna, which is an ancient fort along a trade route into Nepal, from Nepal to Tibet. So this was extremely interesting, and it was all organized by the Vajra Foundation, and Vajra was mentioned by Nawa just a moment ago. So they really are champions in solar thermal technologies. One of the world records at a refugee camp in Nepal, which housed Bhutanese refugees. But Vajra Foundation didn't stop at that installation. They then went on to form a school. This is a Vajra Academy just south of Kathmandu, and on the rooftop is a solar steam system, an institutional cooker. And the students also learn how to run this system. And every morning they go up and they reboot the system, basically placing the mirrors in the morning position, winding up the clock, and there's a grandfather clock type of mechanism that allows it to more or less manually work through the day. That system heats water to steam, and it's then pumped down into a clean kitchen. And meals are served for several hundred students who live there at the school. And these are momos that were cooked with this system. I took these pictures. That means I ate that food. It was delicious, delicious momos. Okay, so that is That is the Solar Trek in Nepal in 2013. And it's also how I met SCI. So I'm going to stop there, and I would like to introduce an SCI board member. This is Dr. Peg Barrett, and she actually filmed the video that's dialed up here. But since she's here in person, we thought we would give her this wonderful opportunity to tell you her story instead of showing the video. So, okay, so we're gonna try to run the video just to see if it works. If it doesn't, we have our backup plan right here in person.
Let me tell you about solar cooking on a cool day in Washington, D.C. in March. We made a whole wheat yeast dough, popped it in the pot after it had spent a little time rising by itself, and we used a homemade solar cooker. My grandkids helped me make this out of cardboard, foil, piece of Mylar. And there's the bread going in. Aimed it towards the sun. Here we are at 200 degrees, and I'm thinking, maybe it's a little cool. The weather report for the day was that it was going to be 45 degrees maximum. And I looked at my own thermometer, it was 41 degrees maximum. Is it warm enough to cook bread? After a little while, it's up to 225. And as you solar cookers know, it does not have to be 300 or 400 degrees in order to make bread. So here we are at the grand moment of opening that pan. There it is. There it is. And looks like bread to me. It's round. It's a little flat on the top, but when you cut it open, it looks okay. Does it taste like bread? It tastes like bread. It tastes like bread. And it's got a nice crumb, a nice texture, a nice flavor. There we are enjoying it. So it was a cool day, but we made perfectly good bread. Enjoyed it very much. And if you've got questions or comments, send me an email. Thank you so much for your attention. Oh, okay. Are we on? We're on. Okay. So it was in the 40s Fahrenheit for this day. But I'm remembering back to my first experience of really, really cold weather. We had what we called Snowmageddon. We had snow up to be a little beyond my knees in 2016. My university closed. My university students had a snowball fight with university students from another university. The university president was there throwing snowballs. So it was very cold with deep snow. And I said, I'm going to try my solar cooker because when it's cold, the air doesn't hold much moisture and you can cook better. I think you've got that impression from what we've seen here. And so I put my solar cooker, shoveled away a little bit of the snow on the front porch, put my solar cooker there and cooked successfully with this snow that was beyond my knees. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peg. Demonstrating that you can cook in the wintertime with the solar cooker and the food tastes delicious. So SCI has 3 activities in its strategic plan. One is advocacy, one is research, and one is capacity building. So I just wanted to run through a few aspects about that to clarify what that means. In our advocacy role, basically being here at COP is an excellent example. We like to come to these meetings and interact with you and delegates from all over the world, particularly delegates that are in areas where there's the greatest opportunity for solar cooking. And for us at SCI, we do focus on vulnerable regions and vulnerable populations. The solar cooking is, well, it's a solution. It helps all 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and we have information about that. We have also found that in the NDCs of the countries, there has been progress in what they say about cooking. And as clean cooking is being identified more and more as an urgent solution, we're thrilled about that because that can open up pathways for funding. So as countries identify clean cooking and more specifically solar cooking, we can work with those countries to look for opportunities for financing large initiatives. So we like to thank countries that are doing that and encourage other countries to identify clean cooking as a priority. Well, we have from Nepal some examples of what they put in their NDC, but I can't read that right now. So we'll move on. But that document is publicly available. And again, we've already spoken about a lot of the activity in Nepal, and it's a very exciting place to work. Wonderful food, wonderful people. And now on research, just to spend 1 minute here, I'm a physicist, and on the research side, we do product testing. The reason why we do this is that we identified a gap at our sector. Just a few years ago, there was no internationally agreed upon standard for how to measure a solar cooker, how well it performed. At that same time, when we identified the gap, the International Organization for Standardizations was initiating a work item to come up with standards for measuring the performance for clean cook stoves and clean cooking solutions. As a neutral organization, as far as being brand agnostic, not manufacturing cookers anymore at that time, SCI jumped at the opportunity to be involved. So we are now not only involved in the standards, but we also have created a program that we call the Performance Evaluation Process, and we now are a testing organization. We can test product from manufacturers, and we do that. So this is what we do. We, with our colleague Justin Tabachnik, have manufactured equipment. So we have instrumentation that we can use that automates the protocol that are in the ISO standards. And we use this to measure the standard cooking power for solar cookers. And this has brought credibility to the sector, but it also gives individuals like yourselves informed decisions. And so this is very important for the high impact stakeholders who want to perhaps purchase large quantities of solar cookers. Of course, we recommend for all manufacturers to get their cookers tested. We've expanded where we can test solar cookers. So we have 2 sites in the United States, one in Nepal and one in Kenya. We've tested these cookers to date, and given that this is a fairly new program, more cookers are on the way. And as cookers are tested and we have the results, we do post these on our website. So you can come to our website, and then these columns are live links. You can access the full report. Plus, you can find a lot more information about each of the cooker, including contact information to the manufacturer. Look for this symbol, this sticker. This is the logo for a cooker that has been tested according to SCI's performance evaluation process. So please keep that in mind. That means that we have tested it according to ISO standards. We also like to showcase solar cookers. So solar cookers that have been PEP tested by SCI, we showcase them at UN events, for instance, and we did bring this Fornelia cooker, the Fornelia Mini, here with us, and we really enjoyed that at our exhibit space during 3 days last week. Okay, So we've also published this work. We like to be transparent about the work we do. So if you're interested to find out more details about that testing process, feel free to read this publication. Also, you can feel free to contact me or talk to me after the session. Okay, building capacity. I'm going to turn this over to Caitlin just for the last few minutes to wrap this up with building capacity. How about, okay.
And there's actually a session coming up right after this one. So what I'll do is I'll invite you to chat with us or visit solarcookers.org or solarcooking.org. But if there's any questions from the audience, maybe we can take those really quick or we can chat after. But I do want to give space to the presenters following us. Okay, we'll keep things moving. We'll just skip through these, but I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how to engage with Solar Cookers International. And there's so many different ways because this really takes a global movement. It takes all of us working together because if any one of us could have done it, we would have done it already. So we invite you to sign up for more information, which you can do with us or at solarcookers.org. You can join the Solar Cookers International Association. You can include solar cooking in your work and encourage your country's leaders and policies to include solar cooking and be supportive of solar cooking. If you're looking at a solar cooker, do look for ones that have been PEP tested, or if you find a solar cooker that hasn't been tested yet, please do encourage the manufacturer to do so. You're welcome to check out more information on the Solar Cooking Wiki, which is solarcooking.org, where you can find plans on how to make a solar cooker, where to buy one, as well as country by country information. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to staying in touch.
Send you information.